It's the second to last event of the PGA Tour season. We are at the second event of the FedEx Cup playoffs here at Wilmington Country Club in Delaware, a brand new course for the PGA Tour players. So I got everything you need to know about the course, who my core plays are for this week, and if you stick around to the end, I'll even give you my favorite punts below 7K. Here we go. What up, everybody? It's your boy, DFS Up North, aka Josh Thomas, and we are here today talking about the BMW Championship. We are playing in Wilmington, Delaware at Wilmington Country Club. This is an old school design that has hosted some U.S. amateurs, some mid-ams, U.S. women's amateur way back in 1913, a classic course. This is where President Biden had his first golf outing as president. But a different course this year. We're going to talk a little bit about the course. We're going to talk about why they're playing here and all that and more here this week on the PGA Picks Show for DFS Army. If you are not a DFS Army VIP, what are you doing? You can come join us. Use that code UpNorth. That gets you 10% off for life. You can take down a showdown mini max like my boy Pocket Change, and use all of our tools. Not only use all of your tools today. It is August 15th. So if you join today, you will get through the first week of NFL, right? So you get all of our content for NFL. So the VIP podcasts, the cheat sheets, which are just unbelievable, the showdown notes, and the Discord where you can come and chop it up and ask questions about your lineup and what sort of strategy you want to use in this contest and things like that, because that's a lot more important a lot of times than just your lineup in general. And those sort of decisions that you're making for that contest are important, and that's stuff that I think we do a really good job at DFS Army of preaching and teaching you how to do it. So if you want to become a member of our VIP member of DFS Army, you can use that code. That'll get you 10% off for life, people. Let's go. So like I said, we are playing the second event of the FedEx Cup playoffs this week. We are at Wilmington Country Club, but first, let's rewind this real quick. Talk about last week. Last week, we had the FedEx St. Jude Championship at TPC Southwind, and our boy, Will Zalatoris, drops his caddy, figures out how to putt, gets it done, tried to lose a couple of times in the playoffs, but, really gets it done with a clutch putt. Was big for him there to make that, to get to the playoff. And then somehow, like, the golf gods were freaking with him. I don't know if you guys watched, but that ball bounced like 15 times on a piece of rock the size of my phone and didn't fall in the water. I couldn't believe it. We were watching it, just mouths agape. And then Straka gets like a very similar shot. His goes in the water, and Will clutches up with a big time shot from the drop area and wins with a bogey, which you don't see that often on the PGA Tour. But a really dramatic, fun week for the PGA Tour. There was some controversy, as always. We had the early in the week, we had the Cam Smith thing, reportedly going to LIV. We'll see. He has withdrawn this week with a hip injury. I don't know if he is actually injured or if that's a self-imposed thing from the PGA Tour. They don't talk about suspensions, but we'll see. If that hip injury doesn't allow him to play in the Tour Championship next week in Eastlake, then I think that we are probably looking at Cam Smith is for sure gone, and the PGA Tour has suspended him. We had the drama with him and Scotty Scheffler. Scotty Scheffler apparently walked right in front of him. Didn't walk on his line. People kept talking about walking on his line. Like, unless Cam was like an inch behind his ball, there's no way that Scotty Scheffler walked in his line. But they joked about it and said they were going to try to do it again in the second round and have Cam walk through Scotty's line, but it just never ended up working out. So, but yeah, that was last week. Scheffler, the world number one, didn't make the cut. That one hurts, but I had some people questioning, oh man, why'd you play Scheffler? Well, let's talk about process here a little bit. We were getting, you can say what you want about the official world golf rankings, things like that, but Scotty Scheffler is the number one player in the world, right? And he was going to be 10 to 12, 13% owned. The higher you go in higher dollar contests, it was even going to be less than that. Like, it's not, at that point, it's not necessarily about the play. It's about the ownership and the leverage that you are getting on the field. You, like, take the name out of it, take course fit, all of that. If you just play the better player at lower ownership over the course of a season, you are going to get paid off more times than not. And that process last week, like, that's all day. Like, I'm just going to make that play every day. So it didn't work out. And this week I'm looking at it again. Scotty Scheffler's price went down big time. If that ownership is in the same sort of spot, I am going to take the number one golfer in the world at 20 to 30% owned every single time. It's the same thing in football. CMC comes off a bad game. He gets $1,000 price drop and he's half owned. Like, you just jump right back on. Like, these guys aren't just, it's not like you're playing a flash in the pan guy, like a Chesson Hadley last week, who I played as well, but he had a couple of decent weeks, but, missed the cut and wasn't high owned by any means. But you're talking about guys who are just elite talents. John Rahm is another great example. He is going to bust through at some point, possibly in the next 2 weeks. He's just too good not to. So you make those leverage plays. Don't overreact to recency bias, and long-term, you're going to have more success in golf. All right, off my high horse there, onto my high horse about Wilmington Country Club. So we are playing at Wilmington Country Club in Delaware. I get what the PGA is doing with the BMW here. They are trying to go to different golf courses every single year. We played at Caves Valley last year. We are at Wilmington Country Club this year. The problem that I have with it is that this course is, it's boring. It's a Robert Trent Jones Sr. redesign. It was designed back in the day in the early 1900s by somebody else, but Robert Trent Jones came through here and we really redid this in 1959. And then renovation architect Andrew Green really just redid some of the bunkers and he lengthened the holes. He added tee boxes. So not really any different than what it's played like since 1959. So if you know anything about Robert Trent Jones Sr., Robert Trent Jones Jr., we got Reese Jones, his brother as well, who have done a ton of course design. Their theory of course design is par is difficult, bogey is easy. All right. They want to make you pay for being offline, right? But you're not going to make like huge numbers here. And in the 50s and 60s, that these courses made a lot of sense. Now, I'm not really necessarily sure how it's going to play with the length that is added on, but for the most part, a lot of these RTJ courses are just not, they don't stand up to the test of time. All right. Belrive being, one of the courses that just didn't stand up to the test of time, even with the PGA going there and trying to make it as difficult as possible. Brooks won, -20, whatever. I think we're very much going to see that this week. The courses just, for today's golfers, it just doesn't set up well. They are going to bomb and gouge this place. The only defense that they can have is if this, like right now, they got the tall fescue bluegrass at 4 inches. It needs to be longer than that, and it needs to be very thick for these guys to have any sort of issue here. The fairways are fairly wide. We have these massive greens that are multi-tiered, which I guess we're not necessarily used to. That could be a little bit an issue for some guys, but it's a boring golf course. There's not like great shots. There's not 18, as you can see in the background here, this picture is maybe the one interesting hole. It's a little dog-leg left that finishes on a 2-tiered green. But you can kind of see here, there's almost every single hole on this course, besides one par 5, which has water in front, has these little landing areas in front, and they're fairly wide. And that, like, whereas like a Pete Dye makes you think like, I have no room here. You see something like that, I am firing at every single pin because I know that if I go short here, I'm in good shape, and long of these holes isn't dead either. So it's just really what it's going to be is birdie's difficult, par is easy this week. So the RTJ sort of long-term design philosophy has been changed, in my opinion. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to play super difficult. If it's windy, it could, but I think that we are likely to see -20 win here. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be like a obviously not playing this week, but a guy like Bryson who can just bomb it out there and gouge and figure it out from there. I don't think it's going to be quite that much, but I think that the guys who are long off the tee, but also good iron players are going to be very, very successful here. And I think that maybe the one other way in is guys who are really good, like a long putter, like a Mackenzie Hughes, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Bent grass greens, which we played Bermuda last week, bent grass this week. Those can get sort of slick in the afternoon. It's going to be warm this week. There is lots of sand here, but like it's just not that punishing, right? The one thing that they do kind of force you to do is that the way that the fairways are sloped and set up, they will force you into some shorter irons off the tee. And unless you're just going to bomb it through, right? Like 18 here, you can clear those bunkers on the front. But longer approach shots. So we're looking at probably 2 to 3 more 200-yard approach shots than normal per round. But again, the greens are huge. There's lots of areas to miss. So good lag putters, guys who can get it up there 2-putt are going to be fine. So looking at 3-putt avoidance is maybe a stat that we can like here. I think to really attack the pins, if they're smart and they want to make this tough, they're going to tuck every single one of these pins. And we'll see on Wednesday kind of where they go with them. But if they do tuck pins all week, then you will likely need to be in the fairway, right? But again, I think that even if you miss the fairway, birdies in play on a lot of these holes. I think if you hit in the fairway bunkers, birdies in play, the trees aren't really an issue. It's just kind of a straightforward, boring course. I hate to say that, right? Like but it's just not my favorite. I'm looking forward to hearing from some guys that are going to be there this week. I know one of our DFS Army VIPs, I think Scudley, said he was going for all 4 days, which will be fun. On 70, I didn't even talk about this, but the field this week, we got 70 golfers, right? Everybody makes the cut. We are down to that point. Guys are trying to get into the top 30 for Eastlake. But it's that smaller field can sort of change our strategy a little bit for how we build our lineups. All right. So my core this week is looking very, very balanced. It starts with Fitzpatrick at the top at 9,500 and finishes with Adam Scott at 8,000. This allows you to do a couple of different things. Well, number one, with only 70 golfers, this middle tier core is really, really strong. All right. But what this allows you to do, I think, in my opinion, is that you end up with 7,400. Let me just build this lineup real quick if I was going to put all 4 of these guys in. So if I put Fitzy in, Fitz, Schauffele's right there too. I will say this. I had a hard time going between Fitz and Schauffele today, but I really do think that Fitz is good. People look at him as he's not a long hitter, but he's as long as some of the top guys on tour right now. Hatton, I thought played really, really well, and Scott. So that leaves me with 75-50. What you can do though is that allows you to go all the way to the bottom and gets you almost all the way back up to the top. All right. So just mixing and matching these 4 guys into your lineups, I think is a really strong build this week. So most guys would just probably go boom, 76. There's not a huge gap, right? So let's see here. At 7,600, we're talking about guys like Davis Riley. I do like Davis Riley, Brian Harmon, Cam Davis, Keith Mitchell, Taylor Pendrith, Poston, Thigala, who I think is playing well. But is Sahith Thigala that much better than Alex Smalley, or Lucas Glover, who was runner 3rd place last week, or even Kurt Kitayama? Like the talent. Brian Harmon, not much better than those guys, right? So the talent difference between 7,600 and 6,000 isn't as big as the talent difference between 7,600 and 9,200, right? So that same $1,600 gap, right? And I'm talking DK pricing here. FanDuel, it's similar, right? So don't be afraid to go down below 7K this week, all right? Especially, in these large pool GPPs makes you unique. So like I said, Fitz, I think he bombs it, plays well, top 5 last week, just has the overall skill set to really do well here. Victor Hovland, I'm just 8,000 square foot greens. He can't miss the green. He's going to hit 100% of the greens. And if he can do that, he doesn't have to chip. And that means that he's in the mix. Hatton played really, really well last week. Guy who can heat up with the putter. And just, I think is an elite talent at 8,200. And then Adam Scott at 8,000. He just continues to knock on the door. If you follow our cheat sheets, I've just been hammering Scott the last few weeks. And he's a really, really good long iron player. he's going to be in the mix here. I think one of the better drivers of the golf ball. Like him quite a bit. Okay, again, if you're not a DFS Army VIP, use that code UpNorth 10% off. But here we go. I don't usually share these guys, so my favorite sub 7K punts. All right. So I said, don't be afraid to go down here, dig down, find these guys. Taylor Moore, guy I'm really high on. He's been playing so well. 6,400 on DK, 8,100 on FanDuel. He's been in the mix every single week. Just solid tee to green player. Not the world's best putter, but his results speak for themselves. So I'm going to have a ton of Taylor Moore. I'm going to go right back to the well with Scott Stallings. So Stallings missed the cut last week at like fairly high ownership at the FedEx. He was like 13%. So I think that we see Stallings he got a decent price drop here. I think his ownership's going to be cut in half. So we're going to look at 6% here for Scott Stallings. Like, the guy's just been outstanding tee to green. He's been putting well. I am not getting off the Scott Stallings train on one missed cut. And then finally, Mackenzie Hughes, who showed a little bit of life last week at the FedEx Cup. And I just have this weird feeling that he's going to be in the mix because, like, I don't know if you guys watch a lot of golf, but whenever they cut to Mackenzie Hughes, he's got a 45-foot putt that he is dropping. And on these big greens, that long putting, that's not quantifiable. That's more of a gut feeling than anything, but he's dead min on both sides, and I am willing to take some chances on my boy, Mac Hughes. So if you want access to our optimizer, to everything, right? Use that code UpNorth, gets you 10% off. Get a month VIP that gets you through the first week of NFL. If you get to that point, you're like, these guys are shit. I'm not doing it. It's terrible. Who cares, right? Like, move on. I'm fine with that. But just give us a month. Give us a month to show you what our community can do for you. And if you feel like you are not improving, your game's not improving, you're not winning money, go somewhere else. Like, I'm fine with that, right? But come give us a shot. Hit me up in Discord at DFSUpNorth. Or if you have any questions just right now, you're not a DFS Army VIP, hit me up at DFSUpNorth on Twitter. Again, I appreciate you guys watching this. If you could give us a like, a subscribe, comment who you think's going to win, just anything like that helps our little videos out here and gets them out to more people so that we can keep doing them. All right. Cheers, guys. Have a great week.